He says people with opposing views should be able to talk about their differences without things escalating.
If someone disagrees, y'all can share your perspective. You want to hear the other side out. That's how you can gain knowledge from them. It's okay if not everyone has the same view.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I was connected to the Wi-Fi.
If you need the password, it's
Why
they move it? Remove it. Oh, there it is, right in front of you. Pass right in front of you. Voice of the people with spaces. Got to include the spaces.
For things to change, students must step up and lead.
It's okay. We got just a few minutes.
Your own leaders, and you also need to take the time to take care of yourself. We listen to our own.
Tommy, you know Osyrus?
And when we finally do, we've gone to a point of too late to raise the home done.
The broadcast airs live from 3 to 5 p.m. the first and third Saturdays of each month. I'm Freda Ross, Arkansas News Service. Find our trust indicators at publicnewsservice.org.
This is Kwame Abdul-Bey. I want you to meet Alice. Who is she? You and me. Alice stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained Employee. Alice is working families facing high housing costs, medical debt, and more month than money. We're the majority of our Kansans. We need programs that work for us as hard as we work for our state and families. Hey, policymakers and politicians, it's time to meet Alice. Who is Alice? All of us.
Hi there, I'm Lee. And we invite you to tune in the morning with Lee here.
Every Monday morning from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. Central Time, where we give you
Old, new, worship, and quartet gospel music.
So don't forget to tune in to In the Morning with Lee and Kim from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. Central Standard Time.
KABF 88.3, the voice of the people.
Rap Officer X, dedicated to my brother. I'm gonna start off with J-Ro.
And put your volume all the way down.
Most people eat too much. Mama say break, don't think too much. I feel I'm on the brink too much. Police say I steal too much. My streets say I feel too much.
So is your camera, turn your volume all the way down and mute your screen.
Okay, people say I'm lazy, I make too much. I think getting late is too much. Facebook say I wanna be too much. The president talk about me too much. They say I write too many songs about freedom. Cause they don't tell my story in the museums. They never talk about I succeed too much. And I'm doing enough. I be doing too much. Oh, yeah. It's like it's never enough. It's like it's never enough. It's like it's never enough. It's like it's never enough.
Those are your headphones if you need them.
All my friends, we don't keep in touch. My brother died out, sleep too much. Overcome with grief too much. Some people wanna talk about me. They throw it and walk around me. Been in the head too much this week. Been in the rush too much this week. My protest and raised hell too much. She said I've been in jail too much. Y'all support genocide too much. We don't talk about suicide enough. I be doing too much. Oh, yeah. It's It's like it's never enough. 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 And we know the power, it can change you. I hope you never give up. I hope you never give up. I'll be doing too much. He said his last 2 words to the police, then he jumped off the bridge. I guess this hell was too much. He shot himself and left her 4 kids. Same time as the man crossed the finish line, and then the mom blew off his lips. Now the lady who got raped, that she can't wait to swallow the truth, then spit in love's face. It's all signs of the time we just lost in our minds. Are you telling me that we don't need therapy?
Yes, we coming in hot this morning with Too Much by Osyrus Bolly, who just happens to be in the house this morning. Cannot wait to see what's going to unfold when we have this conversation on this day. Thank you so much for joining us for Community Voices, where we are live right here at KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people. I am your host, the Reverend Doctor. You can call me Denise. And live in studio is your co-host, the pastor, Tony Orr. And then we also have Osyrus. Just greet us, Osyrus.
Peace, y'all. How y'all doing? How y'all doing?
Want to make sure that you know that that Community Voices KBF 88.3 FM, we are grateful for your presence in this space. Every time you show up for whatever show you tune into, we are grateful. We realize and we recognize that we would not be here if it were not for you. All of the ways that you show up, when you show up in our pledge drive, when you show up for community activities, when you show up at the ballot box, all of the ways that you show up, for that we are grateful. So you are welcome in this space, in the spirit of Sawubona, the spirit of oneness that binds us together by our humanity. There's nothing that we can do to separate ourselves from being human with each other, but we can think about how we practice that humanity. And that's part of our conversation on today. So we are centering Blackness in the context of the human story. Before we get started, I do have a couple of announcements that I do want to make. Osyrus, do you want to make your announcement? Because you got something coming up. I was going to announce it, but you can if you want to.
Yeah, so for the whole community, we got a free event this Saturday, October the 4th. 4th is Saturday? Yeah, 4th. And we're going to be at the Hillary Clinton Children's Library from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. for Youth Talk Unplugged. This is a conversation focused for the youth in our community and the young adults in the community. But everybody's welcome as long as you're part of the community and you come in with a positive attitude. We are welcoming you. We just really want the youth to lead this discussion on civic engagement, civic participation, community development, community empowerment, talk about some of the things that they want to take the lead on, talk about some of the negative and positive things they see in the community, socialize, relationship build, eat some free food, and enjoy some live performances. So we're going to, like I said, we're going to be over there from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Hillary Clinton Children's Library, right over there by War Memorial, and we just invite the whole community to come out. But if you know some young people, please bring them with you. I don't care if they 6, 7 years old, bring them with you. Don't show up by yourself if you're an adult. So, unless you're a young adult.
So like 18,
25, come by yourself or come with your friends.
Yeah, okay. The other announcement that I want to make is that the Six Bridges Book Festival is happening this week. Want to make sure that you go onto the website and learn all about the activities. It's something I think every single night. I know there are conversations happening around science. There are conversations happening around books, of course. And so that's happening this week, the Six Bridges Book Festival. Also, we're getting ready for the grand opening of the remodeled Cow's Library. The library downtown, the downtown library. The main library. So that's happening. The grand opening is happening on Saturday, the same day as Osyrus's event, but watch this. The grand opening starts at 9. His event doesn't start until 11, so you got time to do both. You got time to do both on October the 4th. And then also the library is open now, though. So if you want to just go in and see without all the people, without all the hula, you can go in right now and just kind of take a tour. Make sure you look up on the ceiling. There are some great things for you to see on the ceiling. There's a rooftop area for you to enjoy. It's a lot going on at the main library. Please, please, please take some time out to do that. Also, Arkansas Museum of Fine Arts is there's a new
Exhibit?
Yes, on display. I was trying to say installation. It's a new exhibit on display. It's called Architects of Being. It's on the second floor. Usually we go up to the third floor. It might be something happening on the third floor, but Architects of Being is on the second floor. So it's something that you do want to see. So those are the announcements that I need to make. Tony, do you have any announcements for us today?
Good morning, everybody. The only thing I just want to say is that KABF and Big Griff's family just want to thank everybody who came out to not only his memorial on Saturday. It was a celebration of love, a celebration of music, and a celebration of family. And last night at the Mosaic Templars, it was a musical tribute, and it was an awesome experience. So many musicians from not only KABF, but from around the city came out to pay tribute to Big Griff. And it was wonderful. And one thing that the family did want our listening audience to know is that the Quiet Storm, which Big Griff was the host of for 40 years. 40 years. That's 1 year less than KABF that's been on the air. So he came 1 year after KABF got started. That the Quiet Storm will continue to go on, and that for those of you who like the Quiet Storm and Big Griff, the family just wanted you to know that you can continue to donate to the Quiet Storm. And once again, just want to just thank everybody that came out. We our icons, our icons are passing away slowly but surely, but we can always remember them in our hearts.
Thinking about icons and thinking about remembering, we want to pause for just a moment because the great, the fierce, the unapologetic, the bold Assata Shakur, she passed on September 25th, named Joanne Byram. That's her, what we call it, the government name, but Assata Shakur is how we know her. So I want to make sure that we pause for just a moment when we think about everything that happened to her. We think about how she was disentangled with the criminal injustice system, how she was convicted of a crime that she could not have committed, and she was sentenced to life plus 26 to 33 years. And then her family and another organization decided that they were not going to let that stand, that was not just, and they broke her out. She's escaped, and then she had found political asylum in Cuba, and she stayed there until she took her final breath. And so we want to make sure that we pause for just a moment to honor Assata Shakur. Thank you all so much for that. So we got Osyrus in the house today. Got a lot to talk about. First, Osyrus, before we get started, I want to give you an opportunity to tell us who you are working with. Who are you representing today in this space? Because I know you wear a lot of hats, and sometimes, like we had Mayor Lisa Hicks Gilbert on last week, but she was here for the descendants of Elaine, and then she's also the mayor, so she's got to come on again because she's gonna talk mayor stuff again. So who are you representing today? So we want to make sure we don't get it twisted in here.
Well, I'm just representing me. You know what I'm saying? I'm a community activist. I'm an artist. Thank you for playing my single, Too Much.
Too Much.
I got to give a shout out to Philly Moo and Soliloquy Vibes for the assist and the features on the tracks. But I'm just representing who I am as a community activist, a cultural worker, an artist, advocate for our youth. And so all those different things. I'm on vacation right now.
Okay, so you are representing yourself, but I need to ask you this before, because I chose Too Much on purpose. For those of you who need to know, Osyrus has a catalog by now. Would you call it a catalog? You got a catalog of music.
I'm working on a catalog.
Yeah.
I got like a legit magazine catalog.
You got a legit magazine.
It ain't like a Sears brochure or nothing like that. East Bay magazine, nothing like that.
And so there were plenty of songs that I could have chosen, but I wanted to choose Too Much because of the lyrics. But before I start talking about the song, I need to ask you a question. Is this song Too Much based on a true story, or is it nonfiction?
It is based on several true stories.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So all of the lyrics are pretty much factual, but they might not all pertain to me. You know what I'm saying? They're lived experiences of different things. Some of I've experienced, some of the people that are around me have been directly impacted on it. And then it's also dedicated to a friend of mine who self-transitioned almost 3 years ago. And so, you know, one of the things we always talked about before he did that was that he was just, the world was just too much. He felt like he was dealing with too much. And, you know what I'm saying? So that was just where the whole phrase kind of came from. And then also inspired by like some spoken word poetry that I had read. So I kind of just took it and made it as a dedication to him, but also to everybody else. So that's why it really resonates this month in September with it being Suicide Prevention Month. You know what I'm saying? Also, I dropped it right at the end of April. So May was Mental Health Awareness Month. And so everything just kind of fell in place. And then I released the video in June. So it was Black Music Month. So it was just, you know, everything happened, you know what I'm saying? It is perfectly aligned at the same time. But it's definitely phrases and different things and quotes that I've heard from different people and from me personally myself.
Okay, that's helpful because because the words are powerful, and there's a line that I really highlighted because I want to make sure that we center it in this space. And I like the way you said self-transitioned instead of saying suicide, because suicide carries such a negative connotation in all kinds of circles. And so to give it a different name, perhaps some people will come at it with a different perspective now that you've said it that way.
To some people too.
Right. So I'm glad that you said self-transition. I appreciate that. You can see, you talk about that. You talk about suicide in your song. You talk about your friend in your song. You can see all of that. The line that I want to pull out to help ground us in this space before I bring up the EJI tidbit is the line that says,
I thought you were going to say, go ahead.
You know what I'm saying? Say
I
it.
think so.
Say it.
They say I write too many songs about freedom. They don't tell my story in the museums.
No, that's not. I saw that one too. No, this is the line that says, love is just something to do until the war starts. You remember saying that?
Yeah.
Love is just something to do before the war starts. I found that fascinating on so many levels. I had to actually cut the music off and sit for a minute with those words to think about what you were trying to say, and not what you were trying to say, but what I was hearing and what I was receiving by those words. Love is just something you do, something to do until the war starts. And so it made me want to ask you, what's your concept of love? How do you define love?
Okay, so the line in the song has several different meanings. One, I want to say this because, like I say, it's dedicated to my friend Jay Rowe, who's a veteran. And, you know what I'm saying? And so we know that the veterans have a higher rate when we talk about suicide prevention. You know what I'm saying? They have a higher rate because of a lot of the traumatic things they go through when they go to war. And so so that was one of the reasons why the line really resonated with me. Now, and anybody can have their own interpretation. That's why it's art.
Of course, that's why it's art.
Everybody's discretion. You know what I'm saying? My definition of love is just, just that feeling that you have of embracing growth, and embracing your relationships, that overwhelming feeling that you have, you know what I'm saying, for individuals that you can't really put in words, you know what I'm saying? Like the first time I saw my daughter, I felt I knew what love was then, for real, because I knew I'd be willing to do anything, and at any cost for her. But you know what I'm saying, I just feel like love is just that feeling that we're all striving for, we all feel like we need. And it's just essential to who we are as individuals. Like I said, it helps us grow. It helps us push forward. And, you know, that's something that I feel like everybody wants in their life. And so I know a lot of times people put it in the phrase of like a relationship, and that's why I said it in the song, like love is just something to do until the war starts, because when you don't love yourself, or you find it hard to love yourself, you say love could be a distraction. Sometimes you love something too much, you know what I'm saying? You stop loving yourself. And so there has to be a balance within love too as well. So.
Tony, you want to chime in on what your definition of love, your concept of love is before I give mine?
I used to, for so many years, had my idea of what love is, and over my journey in life, I'm kind of like Osyrus. It's just hard to explain. Sometimes it's just a feeling. It's just something you just know. I also think that one of the things that happens is that going back to the line, love is just something you do until the war starts. Is you do not have any type of concept of love except what someone is trying to teach you, someone is trying to show you, or somebody trying to tell you that love can be a misrepresenting thing or feeling. And just for example, I was watching the news this morning, and J.D. Vance, who is the vice president, said that if you love this country, then you have to fight and defend this country. So if you don't have an idea of the trueness of love, and then what you're going to do, and like Osyrus said, is that you're going to look at it in a way that I have to go out, and anybody who says anything different than what somebody told me love is, if anybody looks different than the person who told me about love, if anybody says anything different than what they told me about love, then I'm obligated, or I feel like I have to go to war with this person. I have to go hurt this person. I have to go and do something to this person to prove that I love this country, or I love this woman, this man, or this entity. And I think the misrepresentation of love is one of the biggest wars that we fight.
Okay, so when I looked at this line, love is something to do until the war starts, it struck me for one reason. For one, because I feel that we are at war. In this country, we are at war. I know that there are wars happening between countries, but I feel like particularly as Black folks, particularly as people who are non-white, we are at war in this country. So when I read the line and it says, love is just something that to do until the war starts, I started thinking about it in terms of, if we really say that we love each other, the spirit of Sawubona that binds us together as humans, and particularly Black humans, if we really say that we love each other, then what we should be doing with the love, as an expression of that love, as a demonstration of that love in the midst of this war, is making sure that we are training each other up to go to war. Osyrus, you said when you saw your daughter, you knew what love was, and you are willing to do anything. You are willing to go anywhere. You are willing to fight at all costs to preserve that love, to protect your child. And so if we feel like that kind of love is what we are, if we are experiencing that now as we are in war, then how can that love be expressed in a way where you say, no, it's time for me to actually put boots on the ground. It's time for me to actually raise up my guns. It's time for me to actually be willing to spill blood in order to protect what I know is love, especially as we're talking about protecting human bodies in the name of freedom, in the name of liberation. And I feel like today, Steffi and I were talking about this before she left this morning, talking about how one of the things that we find is that people don't want to be held accountable. People don't want to be held responsible. One of the announcements that was played before we came on the air was talking about in conversation. People are like, well, we don't want you to say anything that's negative. We don't want you to give anybody a critique that might hurt them. And it's like, that is just not realistic. It's not realistic to live in a country, in the world where it's filled with diversity, and think that you're not going to have a conversation that makes you uncomfortable. So this idea that we're supposed to be comfortable, this idea that we're supposed to keep the peace and just keep the status quo, we've got to get rid of that. And if we truly love each other, then we ought to be able to say, look, it's time for you to stop acting like this. We are at war. I need you to arm up. I need you to get ready so that we can fight. And so that's what I was thinking about. And because you are also wearing the hat when you're not on vacation, you're not wearing it right now because you're representing you. But when you come back off of vacation, you go work for the school board. So here is the tidbit that I chose for you. Here's the tidbit that I chose. On September 29th in 1915, the Alabama legislature passed a law forbidding white female nurses from working in wards or rooms in hospitals, either public or private, in which Negro men are placed for treatment or to be nursed. Again, on September 29th, 1915, the Alabama legislature passed a law forbidding white female nurses from working in wards or rooms in hospitals, either public or private, in which Negro men are placed for treatment or to be nursed. And as part of that conversation, they also said this: the Jim Crow racial segregation laws enacted and enforced in the American South in the late 19th and early 20th centuries codified the strict boundaries of a legalized racial caste system and worked to restore and maintain white supremacy in the region. Even after the Civil War and Reconstruction, amendments had ended slavery and declared Black people to be citizens with civil rights and the power to vote. Many southern states like Arkansas and local lawmakers passed laws forbidding Black and white people from playing checkers or pool together, from entering a circus through the same entrance, or being buried in the same cemetery. So we talk about your friend who gave his life, talk about your friend who offered his service to this country, comes out of the service and then decides that his best interest is to take control of his own life and to self-transition, because we know that in this country, even the Black folks that gave themselves to the war, that offered themselves in the service of the fight to better this country, came out and still faced discrimination. We've got laws that say we don't want Black and white people to be together, not playing checkers, not shooting pool, and not even in the schools. And so when you say I'm doing all of this work for the love of the children, I do this work for the love of the people, and you are fighting against these laws that say you're not worthy as a Black person to be among these white people, we still have people feeling that way today. How do you respond to that, Osyrus?
Well, see, you just said a whole lot. But I'll say this right here. So in the spirit of what we already talked about, you know what I'm saying? Because I am on the school board, you know what I'm saying? I do that for the children. I do that because it's an opportunity for me to represent my community in the correct way. But I'll say this right here, you know what I'm saying? We gave a moment of silence to Osyrus Shakur.
I did.
And we honor her and we celebrate because she did transition free.
She did.
And she's forever free now. But a lot of people don't know. You got to go read her book. You got to go learn the history about Osyrus Shakur. When they wrongfully imprisoned Osyrus Shakur, she was freed from prison by the Black Liberation Army and the Weather Underground. This is a Black group and a white group. They got together to ensure that Sister Osyrus Shakur would no longer, face in prison. And that is honestly one of the biggest fears that this government has. Radical movements that are not Black-led, white-led, Hispanic-led, whoever led. It's when people come together and set aside their differences and push this whole country in a different direction. And where you can't bring up race to them to the point where it's a point of division. And so she's an example of when people actually do come together for one cause, what they can do. And so it's hard for people to understand that concept a lot of times because it's thrown out so much about our differences and the disparities, and it's the truth. But this is actually what the country does not want to see. When they assassinate our heroes, it's usually at their point when they actually have a message that everybody else is starting to gravitate towards. They didn't take out Nation of Islam, Malcolm X. They took out the El-Hajj Malik Shabazz. El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, I'm sorry. And after he went to Mecca and sat and worshiped and prayed with white Muslims, with Muslims of all different types of races and different colors, they took out Martin Luther King the same way. When he was talking about the Poor People's Campaign, when he was talking about he feared that he had led his people into, a burning building, all of this type of stuff. And that's the way that they take out our leaders. And even, in Africa, we talk about Patrice Lumumba, Walter Rodney. When the message started going, it's not just an African movement. It's not it translates across the ocean to the United States. That's when the government, oh man, these people are getting too powerful. It's not only their people, their community, it's affecting everybody. And so we got to understand that, the government is very strategic. And when the message gets bigger than the person's face, the person's skin color, that's when, oh man, you know what? We're taking them out because, this could lead to a point where it goes beyond this two-party system. Even with Asaf Shakur, and I'll be done in a second. Asaf Shakur even has a quote when she talks about this government and talking about political wise and reimagining what democracy is, because she calls it a dollarocracy or something like that. Dollarocracy.
Oh, dollarocracy.
Something like dollarocracy or something like that. Anyway, she had some words on it.
It's about capitalism, yeah.
Yeah, but she said, what if the option to eat was a dry turd or dead fungus? Which would you choose to eat? And neither one of them sound appetizing. And so when we put up our Democratic and Republican candidate, they say, you gotta pick one. Pick one. A dry turd or dead fungus. We have to get out of that mind state where we say, hey, this is what acceptable for our candidates. That's not acceptable. So we have to push our people that are really the people and not the politicians, not these millionaires and these billionaires to be in these positions, people who actually represent the people. These are the people that we want to uplift in those positions. We don't want to accept what you're giving us, because we know it's just a two-party system, two wings on the same bird. So if you're not for the people, you're not about the people, we don't need to make that choice. And so we need options, and we need to understand that, it ain't all Democrat, it ain't all Republican, it ain't all Green Party, it ain't all working class party, whatever you want to call it. We need options because we need the best people to represent us. And we just can't accept what they give us.
I think you're so true. It's so right. Two of the things that you can see happening in this country that reflects that is, number one, there's an old saying, there's nothing new under the sun. Yeah. So I think some people will say that if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. History, if you take away history or you rewrite history in a way that you control the narrative, then people don't truly understand the war that they're in, because you have nothing to, you have no blueprint to go back and see, well, they did this, and they were successful. We need to do the same thing. When I was in the Army, part of the training, every no matter what branch of the service you're in, you go through this one part of training. It's a psychological training. It's a psychological test or training that you go through. And the whole key is to get you to think a certain way, to get you to think as the collective thinks so they can control you. In this war we're having right now, you have people in power playing the psychological game. Because like you said, Osyrus, if I can keep you psychologically distracted or divisive based on color, based on race, based on gender, if I can keep your psyche so concentrated on this, then it's no way you can ever come together, because that's going to stop you. You know, and when you hear people talk about what's going on in this administration now, you hear people say, well, I voted for this person only because they were against abortion. You know, and that's your psyche is, I'm just focused on this. But because you at the front door greeting this person based on your feelings about abortion, but there's somebody at the back door stealing everything else you had, and then you go back and you turn around, well, they stole everything. Where's the person at the front door? Oh well, you know, at least they're against abortion. And I think that's the thing we have to get past. We have to look at the totality of everything and understand that we're better together than we are apart.
That just reminds me of a phrase I've heard people say that the colonizers come and they give you the Bible and they take your land. That's what I thought about when you were talking. I want to make sure that you know that the phone lines are open at 501-433-0088. The phone lines are open at 501-433-0088. Yesterday, I took my first Pilates class. Woo-woo. First Pilates class. I got to decide whether I'm going to commit. And it was this Black woman. Her name is Lisa. If y'all want to know more about Lisa, you're looking for a Pilates class, hit me up at 228-236-7440. I'll give you all the information you need. But Lisa and I were talking, and we were talking, and race came up. And she said, you know what? I'm not looking for any allies. I'm not interested in any allies. That's not what I want. What I'm looking for are accomplices. I'm looking for people who are willing to stand beside me and put their body on the line, just like I'm going to put my body's already on the line. You're willing to die right beside me. You're willing to die before me. You're willing to protect me, to keep me from that. I'm looking for somebody who has that kind of commitment. So when you talk about what happened with Queen Shakur, when you talk about what happened with her, the Black group and the white group got together because they were looking beyond race. They were motivated by their humanity to say this is unjust, and we are willing to put ourselves on the line. We are willing to end up in jail, because a couple of them did. We are willing to do whatever it takes to free this woman, because we know that this is not right. And so they had to strategize. They had tactics. It was a whole plan that they had to get together from the inside to the outside to make it work. And we talk about that on the show a lot. We want to say, okay, we're going to go protest. Everybody excited. We're going to go stop traffic. Okay, after you stop traffic, then what? What demands are we making? Who's making the demands? Who's knocking down the door? Who's holding down the front? Who's taking care of the children? Who's feeding the folks? It's a whole strategy that we have to put together in order to mobilize. And many of us cannot do that because we do not have time. We do not have time to think, because we are psychologically oppressed by the other people, by the colonizers, by the system, by your job. Everybody that's controlling you won't give you time to think for yourself, because if you would just take some time to think, if you would just take some time to center yourself, if you would just take some time to close your eyes and listen, then you'll say, wait a minute, I'm over here in shackles. We talking about roots and in shackles. I'm in shackles right now. How can I get free? So that progress toward liberation, because you talked about the queen being free now, she's free forever, but she wanted to live free while she was alive. And many of us What's stopping us, you think, Osyrus, from having that same attitude? By any means necessary, I'm gonna live free on this. Don't talk to me about what's gonna happen in the great by and by. Don't talk to me about soon and very soon. Don't talk about what one of these old mornings you're gonna look for me. We supposed to have heaven on earth. So what's keeping us from doing that?
Well, you know, I hate to, you know, put it like this, but
Put it like this.
you said we're supposed to have heaven on earth. Well, you know what I'm saying? Most people are okay with not having heaven on earth.
Hold it right there. Most people okay. Hold it right there. Caller, you're live on the air at KABF 88.3. Thanks for calling Community Voices.
Good morning, Sister Denise, to Brother Tony and your guests, those on the web, and those listening on the radio.
Good morning, Ezekiel.
What's up, man?
I just wanted to add also, you mentioned the colonizers, you mentioned historical facts and the narratives that are being presented today and the changing of what was, what is. There were many things that happened that should make us aware of, and I say us, those who are brought over here from the motherland, of what really happened. And it has impacted us in so many ways, and history, well, the future is passing into a different door. You're still being pressed. And there were many things that happened in terms of resistance that are not being taught or told to us. Throughout the journey, if you will, of those who were brought from the motherland to the New World, there have been uprisings and massive fights. They won't tell you about one of the greatest generals ever that was destroyed by a group of slaves in Haiti. It impacted everybody over here from the colonizers. They destroyed this guy called the little man. Napoleon Bonaparte, right. He had to sell Louisiana, the state right behind us, all the way up until the Canadian border. All of that land that France owned at that particular time, they had to end up selling it. That Toussaint Louverture did that. He whooped Napoleon's behind so bad that Napoleon lost at the Waterloo, but he actually lost in Haiti, but they just said he lost at the Waterloo. He was defeated before he got there. He had to sell Louisiana. The Louisiana Purchase was because of these slaves who rose up and fought a war that these Europeans didn't know how to fight. They called it guerrilla warfare. And none of that has been taught in any history class. They didn't want anybody to know about it because they figured that if they knew about it, that the same thing would happen in these other places where the colonizers came and took over. You never hear about Aztecs, Mayans, or those different indigenous first people. But there was a brother down there, that's why Mexico, why Spain did away with slavery, because they had to come to terms with not being able to defeat a brother down there who actually was a royalty, got caught up in the slave trade, and he fought him to a standstill, and they were never able to defeat him. And in what's called at the Veracruz section of Mexico. And they had to come to terms with him and negotiate with him because he never was defeated. So Mexico was like a haven for those who wanted to run away from the United States, this part of the diaspora, if you will, the northern part. They could go south because Spain had to abolish slavery, and it was an African, they fought those Spaniards, and beat them so bad that they said, well, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to outlaw slavery. And they outlawed slavery while these Christians, if you will, in the northern part, and they all had different cemeteries. You could go to places where the French wouldn't be buried with the Spaniards, and the Spaniards wouldn't be buried with the Goths or whatever. You know, they were all still fighting among themselves. But these European people that were carving up the world had to come to realize that history should never be told, because if it was told, they'd see where those folks from Africa fought from the minute that they were taken from their homeland. And eventually, that part of it, after the British said, well, we're going to outlaw slavery, and start doing what they did to the boats that were running slaves, and they stopped bringing them over here, and then finally they gave everybody freedom, what they call emancipation. But none of those things have been taught or will be taught, because they don't even want to teach about what happened in the 1960s, the 1970s. I'm probably going to try to figure out a way to take George Floyd's situation out of the history books. So we should know who we are dealing with because of what has happened to us in the past and what is happening now. But if we go back and look at our history, from the minute we came to these shores, we were fighting and trying to resist slavery. That there were parts of Florida where the slaves would run to, because at that time, Florida was controlled by the Spaniards, and there were parts of Florida that they were living, and they ended up living with the indigenous people of that time, and they were all on the Trail of Tears and everything. They had what they called the Cherokee Wars, and the Cherokees chased them all the way to the border, and a lot of them didn't make it. So if we take time and research our history, we'll find out exactly what kind of enemy we're up against and why it's important to maintain a vigilance, if you will. And that goes for coalitions with these different resistance groups, to just being a part of the system that allow us to read up on things. And don't be afraid of books. They're not going to hurt you. And with that, I get off there. And thank you so much for all that you're doing, and those who are assisting you in doing it. Once again, thank you.
Thank you, Ezekiel. I'll respond to him after you finish. Osyrus, you said, I said something about heaven on earth. You're talking about heaven on earth. That's where you were.
Oh, yeah, I keep it real short. You know what I'm saying? The hereafter is now. And so the people that convinced us that our heaven is in the sky are sitting around enjoying heaven on earth and telling us to be okay with that. And so if you really, you know what I'm saying, believe in that, then you should be experiencing some joy, some peace, some happiness, all here on earth. You can't be waiting until we, you know what I'm saying, dead to come smell these flowers. So, you know what I'm saying, that's all I'll say on that.
I didn't know if you had anything to say, Tony. I'm just checking.
I think one of the things we have to understand is, going back to something I said earlier, it's a concerted effort from day one of this country, whenever it is. When I travel to other countries, they don't use the term French American, French African, or English African. You know, they recognize you from where you are. You're Somalian, or you're Ghanaian, or you're Cameroonian. You know, where here everybody is either you're Black, Hispanic, or white. And one of the things that it does, it negates where you're from. It negates your history. When you talk about allies, a lot of people think that during World I and World War II, that America didn't want Black soldiers there, you know, because they would interact with European women. That was not the case. They didn't want Black soldiers there, so they would not see how the communities of these wars, whether it's in England, whether it's in France, how the community came together, the people came together, the people of all races, the people of all nationalities, the people came together as a resistance. And one of the things that Germany, who started both wars, could not do, it could not destroy England in World War II, and it could not destroy France. There was the French resistance, which included all diversity, and they fought back. Those are the allies, and you are right about this, Osyrus. Any time in this country where they see all the masses, which I say the poor people, the have-nots, come together and decide that we're going to work together, then it becomes threatening to this government. And I don't know if anybody heard the news over the past couple of days. Now the Department of Justice, the Department of War instead of Defense, they're saying we're not going after other countries anymore as far as war. Forget China, forget all these other people. We're going after domestic terrorism, and any group that does not agree with us, we're going to label them as domestic terrorists. So that means groups like the NAACP, the Urban League, groups that are fighting for climate change, groups that are fighting for change in communities. That's who they're targeting, because they know if these groups continue to come together, then we're going to have a problem, and we have to stop that.
Yeah, I think that's the only point. The only reason that we create labels is because we create labels and then we define those labels, and then we use the definition we weaponize the definition of those labels against the people. So that's why they have to call me Black American or African American, because when you hear the word Black, when you hear the word African, that label, it already triggers your bias, the bias that's in you, and then you're going to respond to me in kind. So that's why we come in the spirit of Sawubona that says, hey, we are one as humans, and that's what we need to be focused on. But we also center Blackness in this space, because you cannot erase my story. That's what you want to do. You want to erase my lived experience, and that's what you're not going to do. But to make sure that you know I recognize who I am in this country and how this country treats me and how this country responds to me. But I'm going to respond as a human. I'm not going to respond just because I'm Black. I'm responding as a human. But don't misunderstand what I've gone through, and you cannot dismiss it or erase it. Caller, you're live on the air. Thanks for calling Community Voices.
Hotel, Denise.
Hotel.
Brother Osyrus. How y'all doing this morning?
Good morning.
Peace.
Well, 2 points. First being, the earlier discussion was about love. And I'm saying, why haven't we learned that sentiment should be toward our liberation, okay? Because until we're liberated, Black liberation, nothing else matters, okay? A lot of people will get that statement messed up. What I mean is, why are you talking about reparations when you're not free? Why are you talking about the system when you're not free? Until you get your own liberation, you can set your own agenda and address the issues that need to be set. Second point and last point, the discussion was talked about change agents, okay? Where are those people who step forward in the political arena to deal with the situation at hand? And my question to everybody on the panel is that, where are these people and where are they available? With that, peace and blessings, y'all.
I think that's a great question, and I've been asking it and using different language for quite some time. And so when you talk about Queen Shakur, we talk about what happened to her, how the Blacks and the whites came together in order to free her. When we think about the civil rights movement, it wasn't just Black people. There were Jewish people, there were white people. It was a lot of people working together for us to receive civil rights. So it's not like we can't do it alone, basically, and we shouldn't have to do it alone, because it's not just a Black problem, it's not just an African problem, it's a planet problem, it's a world problem. And so where are those kinds of non-Black people that are willing to say, I'll spill my blood just like your blood has been spilled all this time? Like, where are those people? That's the question I feel like Hotep is asking. He said he's asking the panel, so that would be you, Osyrus.
Oh yeah, well, we all on this panel together. I like it, you know what I'm saying, when they talk about accomplices, you know what I'm saying, and not allies, because that's real, you know what I'm saying. First off, you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna follow the people in my community when they're leading the movement. Mm-hmm. People that look like me, mm-hmm. the people that are with me every day, because that's my circle that I trust. And so it's always gonna start with me and my people, Black live. But when I'm looking for those other different change agents, honestly, it starts with building trust. Mm-hmm. Because so many times our movements have been infiltrated by people who say they want to do good and say they want to be on the front lines on the struggle with us, and then they come in flip-flop, or they can be easily turned over, or they can be bought. And so I'm actually looking for people who are those change agents who can be trusted. But until then, you know what I'm saying? Me, my brothers and my sisters, we're gonna be in this struggle together. We're gonna stand side by side and wait for them to present themselves. And then if they're really true people who are real true accomplices in this struggle, who are gonna be a part of this, who dream with a radical imagination, they know how to show up, they know how to stand up, and they know how to stand down. They know how to fall back and follow others and take the lead. But oftentimes you got too many people who have this white savior complex, who think that they are coming in with all of the tools and the resources to run things. You got a lot of them. You got some of them that won't even tell you that they white. They all of a sudden want to claim it to be indigenous. You know what I'm saying? But I see you in this community your whole life, and you've never been anything other than some type of European, and all of a sudden you're indigenous. And, you know, at least what they used to call them back in the day, $2 Indians. You know what I'm saying? You know, you pay $2 and now you can claim to be indigenous and a Native American. And so if you really want to be a change agent, if you really want to be an accomplice, you know what I'm saying, and more than an ally, you have to present yourself in a trustworthy way. And that takes time to build that trust. It takes time to build those relationships. And you got to show and prove in the community. You can't just walk in and say, I want to do this and I want to do that, from a whole lifestyle of privilege. And then as soon as the first sign of struggle shows up, or the first sign of confidence shows up, you want to run back to your comfortable life. You know, so that makes you look like a rat to me. So.
Yeah, I remember the time that Tony, you all were doing an action over here at the DoubleTree. I think it was in front of the doors of the DoubleTree, and I was signing up people for voter registration across the street. And I met this woman. She came up to me and we started talking. She was white, and she told me that they were going. I think this was right before they had the No Kings protest. They were having a No Kings protest, and they were getting ready for it. And she said, "Because it's our turn to fight. We're fighting for you." And I said, "You fighting for you, not fighting for me." And I asked her, "Who's helping you? Who's helping you with this fight? Are there any Black people helping you with this fight?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Ain't no way y'all can fight. You don't know about fight. You don't know about struggle. You have to be willing to understand, to learn from other people who have been doing this our entire lives. And if you're not willing to come alongside us and include us in the fight, because you're talking about you're gonna fight for us, and you can't." I was like, "Ma'am, that's just not how this works." And so when you talk about coming together, when you talk about change agents, who's going to lead? If you want to be an accomplice, you have to come with a spirit of humility that says, I'm willing to listen, I'm willing to learn. And I love what you said, Osyrus. I know when to stand down, I know when to fall back. And if you don't know, we're going to teach you. But if you cannot be taught by somebody that does not look like you, don't claim even to be an ally, because that's just not how this works. Yeah, it's 10 o'clock. It's 10 o'clock. Thank you all so much for joining us for Community Voices. We have been live right here at KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people. Our guest in the studio, community activist artist Osyrus Bolly. You can find him on Spotify. You can find him on Apple Music. You can find him on Facebook. Make sure you look him up. You don't want to miss out on all that he has to say through his music and what he's doing throughout the community. It's time for your girl Lola to show up for Jazzy Tuesday. She's going to start with the ladies. And to get us started with that, I'm going to use a duet. Since we've been talking about people coming together, I'm going to play a duet between Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway, For All We Know. We'll see y'all next time.